Kinda Funny is going to San Diego Comic-Con. We're doing a meet and greet at Polite Provisions. I'm hosting panels for Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Call of Duty, and more. And best of all, Kevin won't be there. Get all the details at kindafunny.com/SDCC.
So topic 4 today of the Kinda Funny Gamescast, as always, brought to you by Patreon. Thank you very much to all of our beautiful Patreon supporters at the $20 or above level. That was nice.
Yeah.
That's like that Venus de Milo, whatever. No, is that what that?
No, it's 16th Champion. Man, I fucking plowed through that one.
Not as bad as me thinking that was Venus de Milo.
Stephen Carell says, what games are you guys most excited to play on VR?
You Valkyrie, homie.
I mean, at launch of PlayStation VR, it's Res for me. Like Res Infinite. When I played that at PSX last year, man, that was the first time I put on the unit, took it off, and I was like, that was a game that felt like a real game. That didn't feel like an experience. That felt like something I would sit down and play hours of.
Yeah,
maybe not all at once, but
for me, it's Star Wars for sure. Even if it is an experience, that's what I want. I don't.
Oh, the TIE Fighter stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, they're not ready to make the full game thing yet. That's fine. Sure. I just want that experience. I mean, there's nothing like that. That's so cool. And I remember when I heard that they were going to make Space Mountain into Hyperspace Mountain at Disneyland, I was so excited because it's like, I love that ride, but adding Star Wars music to things makes things better. You know what I mean? And I think that there's something very, very unique about the feel of what Star Wars is. And when you add that to VR, it's like, all right, cool. There's going to be a whole bunch of VR experiences of me flying around in a cockpit, but an X-Wing cockpit, a TIE Fighter cockpit, that's different. That's something where I'm like, yep.
Living the dream.
I mean, that's the equivalent. Earlier we were talking about Pokemon Go, where it's like Niantic put out Ingress years ago. No one gave a shit. Like the people that liked it. But like overall, that's not gonna, change the mobile game or anything. You add Pokemon to it, all of a sudden it's like, this makes sense, and I totally understand. And I think that with Star Wars, it's the same thing, where that is that touchstone where everybody that experienced that is going to be like, holy shit. And I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I think Eve Valkyrie is the most exciting. I mean, for the games that are announced, I think Eve Valkyrie, and then I want to see Resident Evil.
I want to play at Comic-Con. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to play at Comic-Con with me?
No, I already played it. I'm good.
It's gonna be. This is the. Oh, okay.
Can you make that happen?
No.
Is that a thing? It is really scary. Andrew Street at Street Sweeper says,
Good name.
Will VR bring about the return of the murder simulator argument in politics and news about games?
Yes.
But the argument is, did it ever go away? I think politics just got lazy. They maybe noticed that nobody was listening to that argument. Yeah, when you put on VR and you are now holding the gun and somebody puts out it won't be on PlayStation VR, but when somebody puts out a download where you are killing cops or whatever, like, yeah, that's going to be an issue. And people are going to put that out, and it'll be like hatred. It'll be like that, right? When you have your hatred game that's in VR and the gun's in your hand, someone will make a big deal about it, but hopefully there'll be level-headed people there to us always be like, well, we've always had light gun shooters. Is it really any different? Like, granted, this game's rewarding you for one thing, but it's one way that they're taking this direction, this game, whatever.
Yeah, I think when the VR first kind of goes really mainstream with PlayStation, I think that we're going to get obviously a lot of news coverage from it from every angle because everyone's going to be talking about it. And I think that will be one of the perspectives people take. But I do think that overall there's going to be a lot more positive angles that will be covered and like really like focused on. And I think that it's going to be I don't think it's going to be any different than it has been because people are always going to have issues with violence in any form of media. So I think that VR is just going to be a new way for people to be mad.
Yeah, at first it'll all be about the tech, but then somebody will get their hands on it and make this game that's weird.
Yeah. Matt Wenny says, why is Nintendo being so slow in revealing the NX? Like, just get to it already. Fans are sick of waiting. There's zero monetary gain to keep waiting, in my opinion. I respectfully disagree with you. I think that there's no reason to talk about it until it's absolutely ready to be talked about. And if the plan is March, I think wait as late as possible because you're just going to get drowned out in the entire holiday run of everything. I think we're so close to E3 and there's still Comic-Con. Like, there's still conventions where announcements get made. I think that they need to wait until later in the year, maybe even a September. I think October you could push it to, but October games start coming out. So that might be not the best time because you need to think about it. They're competing for the IGN placement. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how long is IGN going to keep talking about NX when it comes out? Like, you look at right now, IGN, I guarantee you there's 5 stories about Pokemon Go, and tomorrow there'll be 5 new stories and whatever. They're owning that right now. In October, in November, you need to think about those placements being taken up by Call of Duty reviews and Call of Duty strategy videos and Call of Duty this and that. Repeat that with Titanfall and Battlefield and this and that and blah, blah, blah. You go down the line, it's like they're competing for space.
Yeah.
Then when you get on a more mainstream level, it's, it's obviously going to be talked about, but there needs to be those follow-up conversations. There needs to be more articles than just this thing happened. And when you start competing with the reviews and all the other stuff of all the big blockbuster titles, I think that's a bad idea. So I think September is when they need to strike, early October at the latest, do their own event, really own it, own the message, own everything, and go from there.
Word.
Yeah,
they need to own that moment.
Franklin Sizemore says,
Hey, Franklin.
how did the quality of voice acting get to where it is today?
You can take it more seriously, more
Yeah.
room to run the audio, more intent on storytelling. I mean, you
People
have to
directing games, like directing cutscenes, directing it like a movie.
Yeah, I mean, you remember even like voice acting was compressed, and there wasn't a lot of room to dedicate to it back in the day as well. So, I think it just became important.
Yeah.
And the more important storytelling became, and the more the high fidelity of the audio became a touchstone of these storytelling games and these narrative-driven experiences. I think that was just a natural evolution of that.
I think when people started calling it out too and talking about it, and that was a pro or it was a con. You know what I mean? How many games did you play that were like, these are great, these cutscenes are awful,
Yeah.
this voice acting was terrible, and people saw that, developers saw that, and publishers saw that, and started putting a premium on that as they saw the fact of, oh shit, people are talking nonstop about Metal Gear Solid because they love these characters and they love the way it played out. Whether you know what I mean. How can you look at Vulcan Raven and not love his voice acting?
It's true. It's very true.
Stuff
But yeah, it's funny to look back at voice acting in games and you look at things like Resident Evil. Obviously, was one of
Jill
those things.
sandwich.
Yeah, but it was such a joke. But it was also such a big deal because it was novel and like as bad as it was still like, oh man, like there's voices in this. This is crazy. This is. Oh man, it's like watching a movie,
right?
But you're playing it. You know what I mean? Like that started that conversation,
and that's why I bring up the Metal Gear touchstone of like that was for me like such a holy shit. This is where we're going as an industry, and that game got so much critical acclaim for it. And now, you go back and watch it. It's like blurry faces moving around, and they're all overacting and stuff. But at the time, you were like, shit, this is amazing.
A step in the right direction, which is kind of where we're at now. Like I think other success stories are like Star Fox 64, which is different, but like that did give that game so much character. And the most memorable thing about that game is the voice acting and the characters and that stuff. And then obviously Final Fantasy X, the first Final Fantasy to have voice acting. When people think back on it now, like that is one of the
laughing scene.
The laughing scene is one of the most talked about things about that game. Because it was awkward and bad. But that's just because.
But no one knew any better.
Exactly. Like that's just in relation to the other things and what we have now, it's horrible. But back then it was like, it was novel. But yeah, now things are in a really good place. So I'm happy about that. Connor Jetton says, quick, first response to come to your head.
Clear your heads, everybody.
Is the most underrated game of this generation so far? Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Mad Max.
Song of the Deep. I don't know. I mean, that's what cleared my head. This was pumps. That's just because it's on my mind. We've talked about it this show.
There you go. All right. There's your answer.
If I come to
that makes sense.
Else.
Thomas
I just don't walk around grinding, with an axe to grind about, this game was underrated.
Yeah.
I don't either, but like, I use the term, we all use the term underrated, overrated, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't like, what does it really mean? But there are certain games where I'm like, I can't believe this. Like people don't understand this game. And Mad Max is one of those games. I'm like, I just can't believe it. That game's awesome.
Thomas Parker says, why is the games industry so secretive compared to the movie industry?
I was having a fascinating conversation about this with someone recently, a friend of mine in the industry. And he was asking the same question, and he's a big deal in the industry. And he and I were hanging out. And Ken Levine. And he asked the same question. He was just like, I don't get it. And he was telling me stories about, the way they do it in movies and all this kind of stuff and how different it is there. Like how there are no secrets in movies. Like the movie industry there's no secrets. Things are gestating for years and people are just open about it. And people are like, this guy's writing this now and this guy, everyone, even if it's a secret outside, like everyone in the industry knows. And that's the same thing in the gaming industry. There are secrets, but there are a lot of secrets we know as well. So I don't understand it either. I think it's stupid, but I think it allows, on the other hand, people to really make a pop when the announcement is made because movies are different than games. And there's, so it's run a little bit differently. The thing that
Real quick, can
bothers
we
me,
define what the secrecy is that we're talking about? You're talking about the announcement of games when, like Spider-Man, like when Insomniac's working on Spider-Man Forever and quietly.
yeah, well, they had only been working on it for a little while actually at that point. But like a greater example is like we're gonna get Red Dead, right? Red Dead 3, and again, I want to be clear because everyone's like it's Red Dead 2. No, it's not. It's Red Dead 3.
If it's Red Dead Redemption, it's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right, but it's not gonna be Red Dead Redemption 2. So I still think it's gonna be like Red Dead Revolution or something like that. Why would they do that? Why would they make Red Dead Redemption 2? I hope they don't do
I'm
that.
not arguing.
That would be so dumb.
The only reason would be name recognition, but everybody calls it Red Dead, so anything you put after Red Dead's fine.
God, I hope they don't do that. That'll be so stupid. But they can call it fucking shit sandwich if it's a good game. I don't care.
Red Dead shit sandwich.
No, they can literally just call it shit sandwich and I'll still play. But that game is going to clearly be announced. That game's been in development for years. Why don't we know about it? Like, what is the big deal? But on the other hand, it's like, well, you get a big pop out of it. But the example is like, no one does that with movies. Like, no one does that with movies at all. Like, not only is it not possible, probably because it's like there's not a lot of secrecy. Like, even with Star Wars, like Episode 7, it's like, we didn't know much about Episode 7. Things were leaking, but we knew Episode 7 was in production forever. They announced that they were going to make it before they even made the game. Like, it is totally different, and that's a really good point. And I don't quite know all of the reasons why that is.
Is it because I think the argument might be made that it's because it'll take longer, and not all the time. Don't get me wrong, but I think the fact this goes back to what you're talking about. Why you're not mad, but why you're like, why is Kojima out there talking about his game? We're going to get sick of hearing about it. It was still 2019, 2020 before you're going to play this game. Like, that's, I would think, the reason, right? Because it's for when a movie's been gestating forever, like Ghostbusters 3 and now this Ghostbusters reboot. It's like, at some point, people are like, I'm sick of hearing about this fucking thing. Make the movie or get it out or do whatever. I think games suffer from that too, but games inherently take longer to produce. And that's why I think when you're seeing this shortened schedule now, like we're talking about, like with Fallout, or even when it is like we release this game and then 9 months later it'll be out, maybe a year later it'll be out. That's more like a movie thing. Like, you know what I mean? When you see the first images of like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, it's like, well, cool. I'm seeing this right now of him taking a selfie and doing all this different stuff. And literally in less than 1 year, I will see this movie. So it's like, it's not really burning. Like, where the hell, man? It's not 3 years of seeing him do stuff with the suit and playing around.
I understand the argument and like, or just like the comparison, but at the same time, I don't hate it. Like, I like it. If it could be the same with movies, I think it would be awesome. But the movies are just made differently. I don't understand the movie industry, but I do understand the game industry, and I think that it's cool. I think it's good for games that they're not announced early. I think it was great for Fallout 4 that it was announced the way it was. I think it's gonna be great for Red Dead when that game's inevitably announced and comes out very quickly.
Shit sandwich.
Shit sandwich.
Rockstar San Diego presents shit sandwich.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, lovely gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you, Kevin, for being there. Looking
Big Kev.
like Mick Foley. Until next time, I love you.